Part 1. You will hear a woman phoning to find out about one-day classes held at Stainford College. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Hello, Stainford College External Course Registration. Can I help you?
Yeah, I'm ringing to find out about one-day classes next year. I got a leaflet about them in the post, but I lost it. And I understand some of the classes are filling up fast, so I might need to book quite soon if I want to go ahead.
Sure. Can you remember which one you were considering?
There were a few, actually. I remember there was one on how to make Vietnamese food that sounded good. I think that was on the 13th of January. It cost about £60.
Yes, you're right about the date, but it's £59 actually. It's a very popular class, and among other things, the teacher explains how Vietnamese food includes lots of different herbs. I'm afraid that all the places are taken at present, but I can put you on the waiting list if you want.
No, that's okay. I'm quite interested in the bread-making class. That's in March sometime, isn't it?
Yeah, the 20th of March.
Part 1. You will hear a woman phoning to find out about one-day classes held at Stainford College. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Hello, Stainford College External Course Registration. Can I help you?
Yeah, I'm ringing to find out about one-day classes next year. I got a leaflet about them in the post, but I lost it. And I understand some of the classes are filling up fast, so I might need to book quite soon if I want to go ahead.
Sure. Can you remember which one you were considering?
There were a few, actually. I remember there was one on how to make Vietnamese food that sounded good. I think that was on the 13th of January. It cost about £60.
Yes, you're right about the date, but it's £59 actually. It's a very popular class, and among other things, the teacher explains how Vietnamese food includes lots of different herbs. I'm afraid that all the places are taken at present, but I can put you on the waiting list if you want.
No, that's okay. I'm quite interested in the bread-making class. That's in March sometime, isn't it?
Yeah, the 20th of March. Would you like to register for that?
I'm not sure. How much is it?
The actual cost is £48, but then there's an extra charge as well as that for the ingredients. I'm not sure how much that is. No more than £20, I think.
So what sorts of things do they make in the class?
Oh, various types of bread. I think they make white bread, and then they make sourdough. That seems to be very fashionable at present. And they learn how to make pizza, which is apparently really good.
Well, I'd definitely be interested in that. But there were also a few other classes that sounded interesting. I think there was one on face massage. I'd love to learn how to do that.
Yeah, that's on the 23rd of February, and it costs just £35 for the day. The teacher's great. The type of massage done is a traditional technique used in India, and she actually did her training there. The massage is meant to relax you and get rid of lines and wrinkles. You practice it on yourself, so you have to take a mirror to the class so you can see what you're doing.
OK.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
And I think there was a class in candle making?
Yes, that's sometime in April, I think. Let me check. Yes, it's on the 6th. It was on the 23rd of January, but they had to change the date. It's just £52. That's a popular course too. I think one reason why people like it is because the candles are all made out of natural products. It's filling up fast, but there's still a few places left.
Yes, one of my friends did that class. She said the candles make really good presents. In fact, she gave me one.
Ah, by the way, have you heard about the class on silk painting? That's being held on the 18th of May. You learn how to create designs on silk fabric and colour them using special dyes. Apparently, people can produce beautiful artworks that way, either to put on the wall as a picture or to use for something like a scarf. It's £67.50, which is really good value, I think. There's a similar class I've seen that was £110.
That sounds interesting. Would I need to bring the silk?
No, the only thing is everyone has to bring something to protect their clothing, like an apron if you've got one, or a shirt that you don't use anymore, because the dye can really stain your clothes.
Right. Then the last class I was considering was a bit different. That was on DIY for beginners. I'd like to learn how to do household repairs. Are there any places left on that?
That's on the 24th of February. Yes, there are a few places. It's a bit more expensive. It's £125, but it's a very popular class. You learn how to use an electric drill and a saw.
Yeah, that would be really useful. And I even need to learn how to use a hammer because I always end up hitting my fingers.
Yes, you'll do that too. And when you've learned how to use the basic tools, you do a practical job, which is fixing a shelf to a wall.
Great, just what I need to know. Right, well, I'd like to enrol for that and also...
Hammer.
That is the end of Part 1. You now have 1 minute to check your answer. Part 2. You will hear some recorded information for visitors to a region about history and nature walks there and about a particular visitor attraction. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Here is some information about history and nature walks in the region. They can be completed in less than a day and also be combined with a visit to Melby, a former coal mine now open to the public. The Marsden Coastal Walk is suitable for all the family, as there are no strenuous climbs. The route begins at Marsden Harbour, where there are hourly ferries to and from the beautiful Hooker Island, a great place for fishing. The walk covers part of the coastal path trail. As there are clear signposts all along the way, you don't even need to take a map with you. At one point, the route goes inland slightly and passes a castle built in the 1400s, near to a now vanished market town. The castle's now just a pile of stones, but it's a great place to take photos, and fascinating information boards show what it once looked like. If you set off early, you can be back in time for midday. The Melby Heritage Walk is a great place to take photos, especially of the night sky. At certain times of the year, people come here from far and wide. They climb to the top of the valley and take pictures of the stars. In the daytime, it's completely different. As you hike through the dense woods in the valley bottom, the only things you'll hear are the sound of your own footsteps. At the highest point, you can stop to take in the views, and those with lots of energy can climb the tower that's situated where there was once a 17th century hunting lodge. The route continues along the tops of the hills and brings you back down to the starting point, the car park at Melby Coal Mine.
Before you hear the rest of the recorded information, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
Melby Coal Mine has been open to the public for 20 years and has won awards for its visitor experience. Many of the buildings around the mine are still standing and have been converted into display areas. Firstly, there's an exhibition showing the history of the mine, with many original black and white photos. To see that, you go from the car park via a covered walkway to the main visitor centre. Go through the ticket office to an area where there are lockers to leave heavy bags in, and where you can borrow raincoats. Beyond that room is the exhibition. There's a small bathhouse where miners used to wash after their shift underground. You can see that in the building directly to the north of the engine house. The boiler is gone from there now, but there are lines of tin baths on the stone floor. There's a display of early mining tools from the days before mechanisation. You can find that in a small L-shaped building in the middle of the northern boundary of the site. It's incredible to think how miners were able to use hand implements to cut through rock. The vehicle shed, where you can find wagons of different sizes, along with some of the high-tech cutting machines that were in use until the mine closed, is in the southwest corner of the site and can be accessed via a covered walkway. There is a field with ponies, which are always popular with children, on the northeastern boundary of the site, not approached via a covered walkway. The other building to mention is the Education Centre. This is where school groups go when they visit the mine, but it's also accessible to the public, as it contains a library and small gift shop. The centre is connected to the ticket office via a short section of covered walkway.
That is the end of part 2.
This is where school groups go when they visit the mine, but it's also accessible to the public, as it contains a library and small gift shop. The centre is connected to the ticket office via a short section of covered walkway.
That is the end of part 2. You now have 30 seconds to check your part 3. You will hear 2 food science students called Nadia and Fergus talking to their tutor about their course. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Thanks for coming along, Nadia and Fergus. So this is a chance for you to give us some feedback about different aspects of your course. What would you like to begin with?
I've enjoyed the sessions on food safety. There was some information there that I found really surprising, although some was stuff I knew already, like the rise in rates of obesity.
Yeah, that's been in the news a lot. But I hadn't realised that unsafe food causes more than 200 different diseases.
No, I'd no idea it was that many. And speaking of diseases, I knew resistance to antibiotics is on the increase, but I didn't know why.
That it's partly because when animals are treated with antibiotics, then consumed by humans, the antibiotics get into the food chain. I had no idea about that either.
Then the sessions provided a lot of information about plastic pollution from food packaging in the ocean, but I think that most of us were already aware of that.
Yeah, but I thought we could have done more on how much food is thrown away, unnecessarily through fear of it being out of date. That was only mentioned in passing.
OK, I'll bear that in mind. What did you think about the sessions from visiting lecturers? Fergus?
For me, the most interesting one was about that project to prevent companies giving incorrect information to consumers about food.
Ah, food fraud, yes.
I thought it was really good to address a problem that's faced by so many different groups. People with special religious rules, as well as vegetarians and vegans.
And those with allergies.
Yeah. And another thing, we've had effective ways of analysing DNA for some time now, and these can easily be applied to analysing food. But what the researchers succeeded in doing was to ensure that these tests were carried out at different stages in the food's journey, from the producer to the consumer.
So they knew that the food actually came from the place it was supposed to, and had the ingredients it was meant to.
Exactly. So customers can be confident about what they buy.
And the researchers had a good system for publicising their findings too.
Well, I thought there were some problems with that, actually.
OK. And do you have any recommendations for new topics that we could include in the course?
Well, I'm interested in how crop yields can be increased without damaging the environment.
But we've already done quite a bit on that. But not so much on the seafood industry, where stocks are in danger of being overexploited as a food source, unless we can find ways of keeping stocks up.
Yes, that'd be a good topic. And I'm interested in the idea of a personalised approach to diet. Now we have the technology to analyse exactly what individuals need.
That sounds more like a medical topic than food science.
OK. What about sessions on the variety of food and eating habits around the world? That's very relevant nowadays.
Yes, I think the whole class would be interested in that.
Then there's technological stuff, things like 3D printing of food and smart packaging.
Maybe too specialist.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
Now, I'm particularly interested in your project, the one where you developed a new food product. So talk me through the stages. First, you had to decide on your initial aim.
We decided we wanted to create something people could eat on the go, rather than in a restaurant.
Yeah, so we chose falafel, which was originally a Middle Eastern snack.
We made up our minds about that pretty quickly. I know some students found it a lot harder to choose and wasted a lot of time.
Then we had to do the literature review. We hadn't done one of these before, so the handout with advice for the project was very useful here.
Yes, especially the advice on how to present the information. Then, product development, actually deciding what we'd use to make the falafel. And for me, the interesting thing about that was that we wanted it to be something a bit different from an ordinary falafel.
We really made the right choice when we finally decided to use jackfruit, even though it wasn't something that either of us had ever tasted before.
Yeah, like the name tells you, it's a fruit, but actually it's really good in savoury dishes. The product production, working out how to make the falafel, was harder than I expected because I'd never made them before.
It was mostly trial and error. We started off with the basic recipe and then experimented, and when it went wrong...
Which it did a lot of the time.
We just moved on and kept adapting it. And in the end, it turned out fine, and we had a lot of fun.
We did.
Thank you. Well, your project was a very good...
That is the end of part 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 3. Part 4. You will hear part of a presentation by a tourism studies student on the cruise ship industry. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
For my presentation today, I'm going to talk about some of the issues facing the cruise ship industry, and then some ways these can be addressed. The cruise ship industry has partly been responsible for the effects of over-tourism in recent decades. Over-tourism occurs in places where excessive numbers of tourists cause significant problems. Pollution, for example, is among the greatest threats to many popular tourist destinations. Of course, for many places, it's a difficult balance to achieve. They want to promote their city or island as a desirable tourist destination, but at the same time are unable to cope with thousands of cruise ship passengers on a daily basis. The trouble is, excessive tourism is destroying the beauty spots and places of interest that people come to visit. Several cities, such as Barcelona, have responded by imposing a tax, which all visitors to the city from cruise ships have to pay. But as it's only a couple of euros, many green campaigners think it won't deter enough people to make any difference. Bruges is another city which became impossible to navigate at times because of the huge numbers of cruise passengers arriving on day trips from the port of Zeebrugge. The city was becoming like a theme park, with shops only catering for tourists selling chocolate, which Belgium is famous for, and other souvenirs. The local council took action to limit cruise passengers to a more manageable level. Dubrovnik had to limit the numbers of cruise ships after it became extremely popular as a cruise ship destination when it featured in a hugely successful TV series. What it does now is control the timing of all cruise ship entries to the city's port. However, many people feel this measure does not go far enough. Cruise ships may be unpopular in some of their destinations, but they also have an image problem. They've always been perceived as a safe holiday for the elderly, with not much on offer for families or young couples. A recent survey showed that cost is also a major factor in putting younger groups off going on a cruise. But what they don't realize is that compared to other types of package holidays, cruises can actually be good value, as all activities and drinks are often included. And another perception is that cruises have lots of rules about what to wear and how to behave. But these days, most cruises are no longer very formal and behind the times. So what solutions are there for cruise lines to overcome some of these problems? How can they appeal to younger customers? Well, one selling point is that cruise ships are becoming more sustainable. New ships are built with hybrid engines with large batteries, which means ships do not have to keep their engines running while docked. Cruise lines are also designing ships specially for those in the age range of 21 to 45. The decor in these feels contemporary, and there are a range of activities on board that you wouldn't find on a more traditional cruise. There's even a boxing ring on one ship, and most offer diving expeditions. But there's also a huge focus on well-being, with a variety of sessions of different kinds. Food is always a very important part of any cruise, and cruise ships have had to radically update their menus to suit the tastes of their younger customers. Vegan dishes are standard, for example. The restaurants on board have also gone paperless, with menus available on screen. Unlike older generations who went on cruises largely to get away from everything, younger people expect to be able to keep in touch with friends and family. Many people going on longer cruises also spend time working, so companies have to guarantee Wi-Fi that can be relied upon at all times. My grandparents used to love looking through cruise brochures, even when they weren't planning on going on a cruise. Until very recently, TV ads for cruises always felt dated and aimed at retirees. Cruise lines have been slow to adopt the power of social media, but that's all changing. Leading cruise lines now employ top agencies to produce first-rate videos for social media channels. It will be interesting to see whether the cruise...
That is the end of Part 4. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to Part 4.